Alright, let me preface, however you want to pronounce it, this video once again by saying I am not a professional in the topic. I have not consulted with mental health professionals, although I will confess I have been throughout my life seeking professional help for my mental health, which is not something to be ashamed of, for one thing. um, but I did not consult with a professional on this particular, I should say for this particular video or any video that I have made or potentially might make. If I have, I would let you know. So today I'm talking about grief, stress, and mental health. This is purely through my observations and simply the information that I've gathered over time. As you might recall, summer, I suddenly lost one of my cousins. Um, and this past Christmas, there were two empty spaces at the holiday party, with the family. A year or two, I think it was 2 years, prior, in early November, one of my aunts passed away from cancer. Um, so there have been a couple of Thanksgivings without her, um, and that has affected the family. And then just this past year with the loss of my cousin, that has affected the family more. And everyone has been dealing with it in different ways. My aunt, who was my cousin's mother, gave me a few of my late cousin's kind of treasured possessions, one of which was kind of a family heirloom of sorts that it was a diamond ring that my great grandfather had given my great grandmother shortly before he passed away. That was passed down to my grandmother, and then to my aunt, and then to my cousin. And of course, my cousin didn't have a daughter; she had a son. So my aunt gave the ring to me, which probably would have been what had happened anyway, but it just happened decades sooner. Um, so there was a bit of heaviness to that no doubt caused a lot of grief on my aunt's part, parting with her baby girl's, favorite things. Um, and of course, grief and stress can have sort of long-term effects on mental health as well. So I've observed, particularly, there's one particularly close to me, um, a dear friend of mine, um, last July had to euthanize her 19-and-a-half-year-old cat who she'd had for 19 years. And she is still dealing with it now. And with just the recent loss of my own kitty cat, Nigel, I'm noticeably depressed. Although I was feeling better yesterday, my appetite started coming back, but I have been very lethargic. Um, Actually, just this morning, I went ahead and curled up for a few minutes in Nigel's favorite sunshine spot on the landing, um, just to feel a little closer to him. But I think for me in particular, what's helping me cope is I really feel a big sense of relief more than anything for him, because if we had put it off another day, he would have been suffering. Um, and of course, last thing I want for any of my fur babies or feather babies is for them to suffer. Um, I didn't make a video about it, but last year, it's been last fall, I did end up putting my hen Sully to sleep. She had developed a tumor in her belly. Um, so then the three younger ones, Violet, Edelgard, and Maya, moved out into the chicken yard to have, full reign of it. Of course, Sully was a bit of a bully to them, so they were happy to not have to deal with her. I mean, that's just chickens being chickens. It's how they are by nature. They're really kind of jerks. Um, but just a couple days ago, I watched one of my videos of both Sully and Nigel in the backyard, and that brought me joy. So I think really the biggest thing for me coping wise is finding things that bring me joy, which I do recommend, but again, I'm not a professional, um, so take everything with a grain of salt. These are not absolute facts. These are my personal observations and opinions, to which everyone is entitled. Um, and there's been quite a bit of stress in my household, particularly with my parents. They're not worrying so much about me now. They're able to um, kind of more focus on themselves, and then that has brought with it its own stresses, which is to be expected. Um, Living in a household with multiple people, especially people who have lived together for so long. My parents have been married nearly 40 years now. Um, so it's kind of expected when they've been married that long that they have their arguments and their disagreements and their fights and say things that they don't mean, particularly when they're stressed out. Um, and one thing that I've personally come to understand about stress and mental health is that finding an opportunity to vent the stress does benefit one's mental health. Um, there was a study some years ago. Gosh, I don't even really remember the details of it. It's been a while, and I didn't pay a whole ton of attention to it. But study showed that swearing in the workplace actually improved. I should say not swearing, but the allowance of swearing in the workplace actually improved employees' what's the what am I looking for? Um, Performance. There we go. Their ability to work, because it was a way for them to pretty immediately vent stress. Construction worker, hammering a nail on a roof, he hammers his finger. The immediate response to vent that stress is to start yelling expletives, which it's very understandable. It's at this point now it's human nature. We're so conditioned to it that it's just normal. But it's about finding appropriate times and places to vent stress and frustration. One thing that I personally like to do is I have a huge collection of stuffed animals, beanie babies, plushies that I just talk. I just talk to them. And I find that it helps me because there's no one to judge, no one to interrupt, and no one to give you suggestions that you are not in the mood for hearing. um, of course, speaking with a therapist or other mental health professional one on one also helps. I tell my counselor things that I do not even bring up with my parents, and things that I will not, for the sake of respecting those involved, even start listing here. Um, it's not a public matter, so best to keep private things private. And that in its own also can have an effect on one's stress level and mental health. Um, but again, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do or what not to do. It's your brain, of course. You know yourselves better than I know you. I'm just a face behind a mask on a computer or phone or tablet, or at this point now even a Switch or Nintendo 3DS or DSi screen. It, so it, look when you're dealing with stress, it's best to look inside yourself and figure out what works for you to cope. Preferably nothing that involves harming other living things, except maybe, mowing the lawn, picking flowers, chopping down a tree for firewood or construction or something. Or, if you go hunting for food, that can be very cathartic. I mean, I haven't done it personally, but, I know people who hunt specifically for food. My uncle, in particular, is an avid deer hunter, and he's one of the most patient people you will find, in certain circumstances, not in everything. It's true with everyone, and again, that patience plays into one's mental health. It has been said of me that I'm an incredibly patient person, but even I have my limits, and I'm not very patient with everything. I, I of course have, me personally, I've been, I'm willing to lend an ear. And it's always good to find someone who's willing to lend an ear and just listen and be there. For my, friends and family have been invaluable in stressful times for me. And I think that's really what helps to keep me sane. Um, of course, I know that appropriate diet, nutrients, vitamins, minerals, hydration, can also play a big role in managing stress and mental health. Um, Again, I couldn't tell you really because I'm not informed on this. Again, merely personal observations. Of course, I know firsthand and from doctors and the mental health professionals who I have spoken to throughout my life. Exercise, even just getting up and walking for 5 minutes, has been scientifically proven to release endorphins, which are the feel good hormone. So if you're stressed and you are at a time and place where you are able to just get up and even pace around your room for 5 minutes, that does help. And I have actually not explained, but recommended this to a particular friend of mine. You know who you are. um, on multiple occasions, and they have taken it to heart. Um, and it's important, especially now with lockdowns and restrictions and everything scary going on out there these days, to be aware of your stress levels and mental health. And to anyone who has lost a loved one to this pandemic, my heart goes out to you. I cannot relate to that particularly on a personal level. However, having lost loved ones both suddenly and as well as expectedly, from for various causes, particularly illness and disease. It's hard. It's hard. Um, it's very hard. And what is important is to remember that even though you're grieving, there are still, life is still worth living. There are still things to find joy in. Um, like today, I'm actually doing an escape room for a friend's birthday party. I've wanted to do an escape room for years, it seems. And I now have an opportunity to it, and I'm very, very excited about it. So it's about finding joy in life. Whether it's, doing something to memorialize your lost loved ones, or, getting back into your regular routine, or just taking some time to yourself and, being there for you. Um, it can be, rough. It can be very rough. But just remember that we all go through hard times. We're not infallible. We're all human. Um, and, you know, we're all the same. If you take off our skin, underneath we're just gross sacks of meat. um, and that's important to remember, is that, our experiences don't make us fundamentally different. We all feel grief, we all feel pain, we all feel stress, and we all ought to be aware of our mental health. And just be there for each other, whether in person or at a distance, especially now. Just a, a few things to remember. We're a world, but more than that, we're a community. Um, and as such, we should all be supportive of one another. We should all care. Again, it's just my opinion. I mean, you do you. I'm not going to tell you what's right or what's wrong. Yeah. So just take care of yourselves. Be mindful of your mental health and your physical health as well. And let's look out for each other. Take care, everybody.